Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Nat. Today we'll be going over a vulnerability management lab where we'll install VMware virtual machine, Nessus Essentials, and a Windows 10 ISO and install some deprecated software on it. Should be really fun. We'll be running some vulnerability scans on the Windows machine to discover potential vulnerabilities and then remediate them with Nessus recommended solutions. So what is vulnerability management? Well, in a nutshell, it is consistently monitoring your assets with the goal of discovering vulnerabilities, remediating them to an acceptable level of risk, and then restarting that process continuously to ensure that the organization's risk as a whole is low or at least an acceptable level. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and download VMware. So what you can do is you can either type in VMware download, or you can, so let's see here, so VMware download, Windows 10, VMware workstation player. So if you type in VMware workstation player download, go ahead and click that link. And if you go ahead and scroll to the bottom here, depending on what kind of system you have, whether it's Windows or Linux or Unix, go ahead and download that link. I've already done it, so I'm not going to download it right now. But yeah, after you've gone ahead and downloaded VMware, um, we're going to go ahead and download the Windows 10 ISO. So I left the link, so there's a link below, and check below for that. So click where it says Create Windows 10 Installation Media. So this right here, go ahead and click this link below. And basically, once you've clicked the download and you accept the terms, just select the Create Installation Media, Next, and just keep clicking Next until you get to the install button, and that should be easy to find. So these steps will take a while to download. So in the meantime, just go ahead and start downloading the vulnerability scanner that we'll be using is Nessus Essentials. So again, left the link below, or you can just Google Nessus Essentials. And once you've done that, you're going to come to the home page. It looks like this here. And in order to download it, what's going to happen is you'll need to fill out a form, this form right here, register for an activation code, and then they're going to send you an email with a key for setting up your free account. There'll also be a link to download Nessus as well. So the page, it's so let's see if we can go ahead and pull up the page for you. So yeah, once you've received the email and you've gotten your activation key, you're going to click on the link in the email and it's going to take you to a page that looks like this. So you don't need to worry about the get activation code because you already gotten it after you've been sent the email. So the one that we're going to download for this lab is the one that is this one right here. So the Windows Server 2008, it's got the 7, 8, 10. So the 10 here because we're using Windows 10, Rev 10. So go ahead and click this link here and download. And then after you've completed the download, it's going to take you, you're going to go ahead and see what's a socket local host with a port number on there. And that link's very important. You want to make sure you save it, otherwise it can be a bit of a hassle. So like you see how I have it saved here on the taskbar. So go ahead and after you've downloaded it, it'll take you to a page that looks like this. It says connect via SSL. And then once you've clicked on connect via SSL, you're going to go ahead and log in with your credentials. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and log in. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to change something. And I just want to give you the heads up. The first time that you're installing this, it'll take a while because it has to initialize and install things and probably download a number of definitions and such. So take a break during the downloads. It does take a while, and just come back after it's done. And then once it's done, just go ahead and select the Nessus Essentials. You'll hit the continue, and then you'll skip because you already have the activation code in your email, And then so it'll walk you through the whole process of how to do it. And then once you've completed that, you just hit the continue. Um, what we'll do is after logging in, you'll have your home page that looks like this. You'll be able to see where it has the My Scans, All Scans, and then we'll be able to create a new scan. But in the meantime, while yours is downloading, let's go ahead and get back to setting up our VMware workstation player. So I'm going to go ahead and open up workstation player after it's been installed. And so once yours is installed, it'll look like this. So let's go ahead and check on the Windows 10 ISO. And what we're going to do is create that virtual machine inside of it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and click on Player, go to File, New Virtual Machine. And then for the installer, we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to click Browse. Let's see and take a look at this here. So the Browse. And then you go to wherever you have your Windows 10 ISO downloaded. So for me, I have it saved to the desktop. So that's where I'm going to click that. I click next, and then hit next again. You can, yeah, do that. Just go ahead and hit next again. And then what we're going to do is go to customize hardware. And so if you have the capacity, go ahead and increase it to 4 GB. That's typically what I do. I just keep it at 4 GB. It just makes things a lot faster. 4092. So now we have 4 gigs. And then you want to change the network adapter to bridged. So we're going to go to network adapter and change that to bridged. And you may or may not need to use the configuration or the configure adapters and replicate physical network connection state. But basically what it does is if you choose the replicate physical network connection state, it's your virtual machine is going to it's going to mimic the way that your host's network is. For example, if you're connected to a Wi-Fi, then your machine is going to be connected to Wi-Fi, and if you switch your network over to a hotspot, then that virtual network is also going to switch over to a hotspot. So it just mimics what you do. I'm personally going to do it. I think it worked. I tried doing it without the check last time. It didn't work for my machine, so I'm just going to go ahead and check for now. And then after we've done that, oh, and the reason we do bridge is because it'll allow the virtual machine to be on the same network as your physical computer, so that the Nessus implementation can easily talk to the machine. So now what we'll do is we'll hit close and finish, and then yeah, we can power on after it's created. And then let's take a few seconds here. One thing to keep in mind is while it's installing, when it says hit any key, be sure to hit any key. That way, once it restarts, it'll go ahead and get to the installation process. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it back out, and then once it gets to the installation portion, I'll just go ahead and bring it back in. Okay, so now we're at the installation page. So go ahead and hit next, install now, and it'll just start up. So if you're here to say I don't have a product key, and then it'll say something like you have to use the key later. We're going to be doing Windows 10 Pro. Hit next. Go ahead and hit the agreement. Hit next. We'll be doing the custom installation. Next. And then here we go. So now it's just going to go ahead and install. So this is the process that it's going to take a while. So I'll just bring it back once it's finished. Okay, now that it's done, go ahead and click yes. Yes to yes. Go ahead and hit skip. Then let it do its configuration here. And once it's finished with that, go ahead and say set up for personal use. Select offline account, limited experience, as you see right here. And so for the purposes of this lab, we'll just call it admin. And we'll just make a simple password, and I'll just call it password PASSWORD1. For the purposes of the lab, obviously you don't want to do that in a production environment, bad practice, but for the lab it's all right. And then confirm the password. And then so for these are just, you can just pick anything, like you're not really gonna have to worry about these security questions. You can just put whatever answer you want. And then just select no for all these. Accept. Go ahead and skip all this. Not now. All right, and we're all set. So it's gonna create the windows for us here. So that's gonna take a little bit. Okay, so it is now done. We're all set. So for now, what we want to do is run a basic uncredentialed scan with, or on our machine rather. And then later what we'll do is a credentialed scan. So first we want to make sure that we can scan it and get some kind of result. But first what we need to do is get an IP address of the virtual machine. So go ahead and open up the command prompt by typing in CMD in the start search bar, CMD. And then once it comes up, go ahead and type in ipconfig. And so we'll see that this is our IP address right here, 172.20.10.12. So then what we're going to want to do is we're going to open up the command prompt on our actual machine, on our host device. And we're going to want to ping the the host. So let's see here. What was the, write down the address here. So it is 172.20. So we're going to say, I'm going to ping. So it's 172.20, I believe. 172.20.10.12.10.12. And then we're going to want to use the switch dash T, which basically just means that it's going to keep pinging nonstop until we cancel the ping ourselves. And then so let's go ahead and hit enter and let's see what comes up. So it should, yeah, exactly. So request timed out. It should continue to say request timed out because the virtual machine has the firewall turned on. So what we're going to want to do is go ahead back into the virtual machine. So just keep, you see how it's request, it keeps requesting timeout, right? So what we're going to do is go back to here, the virtual machine, and what we're going to do is turn off the firewall. So wf.msc, go to the settings. Now this is, again, in a production environment, you would never want to do this. This is just so that we can see some results with the vulnerability. And then once you go into the Windows Defender, go ahead and click on Windows Defender Firewall Properties, and then these first three tabs, just go ahead and turn them to the off setting, off and off. Go ahead and apply, and then hit OK. And then if we, yep, there you go. Now we can see that we're getting a echo reply from our ping. So go ahead and cancel that. So now we know that we can go ahead and copy and so let's go ahead and copy and paste the virtual machine's IP address to the Nessus Essentials when we run a new scan. So let's see here, 172. Okay, so let's go back to Nessus Essentials. And so yeah, so here's the home page. We're going to say create new scan, basic network scan, and then go ahead and paste the IP address. We'll just name this Nessus baseline, if I could spell here, baseline scan, SCAN. So here we go. So for targets, you have the 172.20.10.12. And we're just going to do a manual scan, so we'll leave the rest of the configurations alone. And keep in mind that you could do scheduled scans if your organization required a scan done, say every 24 hours or like every Tuesday night, every Tuesday at midnight, for example, something like this. So you also have the option to run different types of scans. For instance, if you click Discovery, you'll be able to see here that you have scan type and you can run a port scan of common ports, all ports, or custom ports, as you can see here. And there's a lot there, and there's a lot of settings that you can explore on your own, so just play around with it and you'll become more familiar with it as well. For example, if we go to say the credentials tab, you can see here if you click on the windows, you can actually use credentialed scan where you put in the username and password of the machine that you're going to be running a vulnerability scan on as well. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Basically, what it would do is when you have the scanner or when you have Nessus doing the vulnerability scan, and log into it to the machine, it's going to dig through the directory, the file system, and a few other things. For example, it can discover if you have any vulnerabilities such as deprecated software, or maybe you have some insecure services. So this is what the credentials page is used for. Let's go ahead and remove the credentials and go back to the settings here. Remove that there and go back to settings. So for now, we just want to confirm that we're actually able to run a scan. So we'll keep it basic just to see if we can get any kind of information back. So we have our IP pasted. Now let's go ahead and hit save. And this is our scan. So it's not running just yet. It's only configured. So you'll be able to see all of the scans that you create here in the list. And go ahead and hit launch or the play button here. So while it's scanning, you can see the progress by clicking on it and see what finding it's gotten so far. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it here and then come back once it's finished. Okay, and it's done. So let's click on it to get the individual results. So as you can see here on the chart, you have the blue, which is the info, and then the yellow, which is the low, and then you have orange for medium. So a lot of times, depending on the organization, they won't even look at the lows or the mediums because they just have so many criticals and highs that take precedence. So in our case, we didn't use any credentials. We used a non-credentialed scan. So we don't see any criticals or highs that could potentially be there within our virtual machine. So let's say, so if we click on the vulnerabilities tab, let's take a look, see here. So you can see that the list of everything Nessus was able to grab, and you can click on these to see and learn a little bit more. So for example, if we click on this one, you'll see here is the signing is not required on the remote server. An unauthenticated remote attacker can exploit this to conduct man-in-the-middle attacks. So what it'll do is it'll explain what the vulnerability is, and then give you some solutions and some links and things like that for you to be able to find um, or to figure out how to solve the vulnerability issue. And so next what we're going to do is we're going to configure our virtual machine to be able to accept authenticated scans, and then we'll provide the credentials to Nessus and run a new credentialed scan and just compare it to the results that we did with our first scan, this one here. So let's head back to our virtual machine. So let's click on here. There we are. And so what we're going to do is open up services with the services.msc. So go here in the search bar and then type in services.msc, just like that. Hit enter. So first what we'll do is enable the remote registry. Let's see here, remote registry, here we are. And so it's going to allow the scanner to connect to this computer's registry and then crawl through the registry to look for insecure configurations. For example, for example, like a deprecated cipher suite that might be enabled. They're typically enabled or disabled in the registry. And to go over what so a cipher suite basically allows for secure communications between clients and servers using a secure protocol like TLS, or the transport layer security. So let's see here. So where it says startup type, go ahead and click automatic and then hit apply and then go ahead and start. So let it complete that there, and then now it's enabled. So next thing on the list is we're going to enable file and printer sharing. So go ahead and hit OK here. You can close out of this for now. And then if you type down here file, or rather if you just type in share, hit enter. So it may already be enabled. So no, that's not what I meant to do here. So yeah, if you just type in sharing and then go to manage advanced sharing settings, it should, there you go. So yeah, so network discovery. So it looks like it's already turned on by default. So yeah, everything's turned on. So that's pretty much it as far as that goes. Let's go ahead and close these out here. The close all this. And then what we'll do is we're going to go to the user account control, and then so let's type that actually into the search bar, user account control. And this isn't good practice typically, but for our virtual machine, it's not on the domain, so we kind of have to do these quick hacks to be able to scan it. So we'll just go ahead and disable it, switch it to never notify, click OK, click yes. And now let's go to the registry where we're going to add a key that's supposed to, I guess you could say, further disable the user account control for the remote account that we're going to use to connect to this machine during our scan. So first go to the start and type regedit, regedit, R-E-G-E-D-I-T. So we're here at the registry. And these techniques were referenced from the Nessus documentation. We'll have the link below, just a little disclaimer. So let's go to HKey local machine. Then we're going to go to software. Then we're going to go to Microsoft. And then Windows. And then we're going to go to current version, policies, policies. Here, let's see if I can widen this out a little bit. Policies, system, and then let's see. Okay, so inside of systems, go ahead and right click, new, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a D word, and the value is going to be called local account, local account token filter policy. Local account token filter policy. Hit enter, and then we're going to double click on it, and we're going to set the value to 1, and then we'll hit OK. And then now what we're going to do is reboot our virtual machine and log back in. So let me go ahead and reboot. Okay, so it finished rebooting. So let's go ahead and log back in. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Nessus Essentials and wait, let me see here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to edit our scan that we just made, and we're going to check the box next to it. So we're going to go to more and configure. And this time we're going to add some credentials to it. So go to the Windows, and we're going to type in username that we use, so admin, and then the password that you saved for it. And hit save. And then what we're going to do is go back to the scan report and back to my scans. Now what we'll do is we're going to run it again, and when it's done we'll compare the results with the first scan. So we should see some more results with this scan now that that we've used credentials. So I'll check back when it's done. Go ahead and launch it. Okay, so it's done. So let's go ahead and click on the scan here. And presto, now you can instantly see that we have a lot more critical, or now that we have some criticals and a lot of highs. Whereas before we only had the info and the mediums. So let's take a look at the history so we can see the two scans visually. So this is the current one that we have right now. So you can see 18% high and 3% of criticals. So if we click on the first scan, we can see that we didn't use credentials. So for this one, we only had, let's see here. So yeah, so now we can see the big difference between the credentialed and uncredentials, right? So this solidifies the importance of running credentialed scans where you can discover way more vulnerabilities. So let's look at the vulnerabilities tab now. Let's go ahead and take a look at this right here. So this is the list of the findings, and some of these are mixed. And so, well, actually, let's go back to the. Sorry about that. Yeah, some of these are. You see how some of these are mixed. So if we click on this one, for example, it's a combination of criticals and highs and mediums and the info as well. And you can see that most of these are Windows. Let's see, go back here. See if it's like Windows, Microsoft Bulletin, and then if we go back again, see if we can actually go ahead and click on this. So video extensions, library, things like that. And so you can see what the different types of solutions are, the remediations to on how to fix most of these actually. And then the VPR top threats. So this is a tab that it's basically Tenable's recommendations on what to prioritize in terms of remediation, probably based on a CVSS score. And if you want to learn more about this CVSS and how it works, I'll leave a link below as well. So let's see here. So yeah, so you can see like a whole lot of different, the descriptions. And yeah, so here's like the CVE. And so it's an elevation privilege vulnerability that an attacker can exploit. So what some professionals recommend is making sure that you have third-party patching and Windows OS patching set up properly, meaning that it's tested and deployed at regular intervals before we start any before we start any remediation for our machine, though. For any remediation. And for our machine, let's just go ahead and install some deprecated software like a really old version of Firefox, and then we'll run one more scan to compare our results. So give me 1 second here so I can pull it. Let me see what's going on. So firstly, we just want to make sure that what we're about to do, we only do on the virtual machine. Don't accidentally do it on your host machine. So let's go ahead and exit out of here. So if we go to Microsoft Edge, I don't know why this is, okay. So we're going to go ahead, go to Google. So go ahead and type in. So yeah, so we're about to download the deprecated software, which is going to be a really old version of Firefox. So type in download old Firefox. And this should work here, the Mozilla support. Actually, let's see if I can the screen bigger. That's as big as it gets here for now. And then what we want to go to is, and so we're just going to scroll down here. And we're looking for directory of other versions and languages. Okay, so here, so directory of other versions and languages. I'm going to click that. And then so you can pick any of these that you'd like. But I've already done this, so I'm going to stick to this one right here. So you type in Control F to get this little search, the little search bar here, and then 3 dot. 6.12. So we're going to click on that, and then we're going to click Win32, and then we're going to press Control F again, and then we're going to type in en-us. There we go, so you have US here. And then we're going to click the Firefox setup 3612exe. So that's this here. And so it's downloading. Let's go ahead and click on that. Hit next. Next. All the way through until install. And then you'll see that there you go. So it's finished. Go ahead and launch it. Go ahead and hit finish. Okay, here we go. So now we have, so now we have the old version, this really old deprecated version of Firefox, as you can see here on this side here. So you can go ahead and exit out of that and save and quit. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and head back to Nessus Essentials and back to my scans. I'm gonna click on this one and we're gonna run a new scan again. And then just go ahead and let it run. And so basically what the scan is going to do is it's going to scan open ports, inspect the registry, inspect the services, and then inspect the file system. And it's going to discover that this old version of Firefox, um, that we just installed, and it's going to have a plethora of vulnerabilities, as we'll see. So yeah, just go ahead and give it some time to finish installing, and we'll get right back to this. Okay, so it's done. Let's take a look. So we are going to go ahead and click on our scan. Wow! So we can see that our criticals went up to by like it's up to like 20% now at 68 criticals and 93 highs. But before we dive into those, so let's just take a look at the history so we can get a comparison. So as you can see here, so this is the current, and that is wow. And most of it is going to come because of the deprecated software, because of the Firefox for sure. Um, because it's so old, it just has so many vulnerabilities in it. And so this is the first one that we did. And you see here at the bottom, and it only had like just it barely had any info on it. No credentials were used. And then the second one with the credentials, we have a little bit of credentials, sorry, a little bit of criticals and highs were discovered. And then, of course, uh, the last and certainly not the least is the third one after having the old deprecated software. So there are way more. And if we move to the vulnerabilities tab and click on mixed, you'll see here, I'm sorry, hold up, let me go back to this. If we click on this one here, so yeah, the vulnerabilities you see mixed. Most of these Firefox. So it's like all Firefox, the vast majority of it, just because it just has so many vulnerabilities on it. And then if we move to remediations tab, we'll see that the remediations are mostly the same. Um, just upgrade Mozilla Firefox basically, right? It's like these are the number of vulnerabilities, and it's all upgrade Firefox basically. And so the next step that we're going to try to do is to remediate as many of these vulnerabilities as possible. Now, realistically, you don't have to go through each and every single individual one, especially for for this case. You can uninstall it or just update it. But what we'll do instead is we're going to go ahead and uninstall and then run the Windows updates until there's no more updates that need to happen. So let's go back to the let's go back to the virtual machine here. So what we're gonna do is type in appwiz.cpl, appwiz.cpl, hit enter. And so this is just a quick way to get to the installation section here. And we're just going to uninstall Firefox, hit next, and go ahead and uninstall and finish. And there we have it. So then what we're going to do is we're going to type update, and then we're going to check for some updates. And then check for updates. And you may need to restart, a few times before it's completely up to date. So yeah, you see as we have like a lot of updates that need to be done. And so we'll just go ahead and wait for this to complete. So yeah, as you can see, we're gonna go ahead and hit the restart to reboot it here. It does have a few updates that need to get done. Okay, so we are now fully up to date. So what we're going to do is go back to Nessus Essentials right here, and we're going to run our scan one more time. So we should see significantly less vulnerabilities this time going through. So go ahead, just get back once it's finished. Okay, our final scan is now finished, so let's check it out. So go ahead and take a look at the vulnerabilities here. So they've definitely reduced significantly. As you can see here now, it's back at 87% with the info, and the highs and criticals are significantly much lower. So let's take a look at the history. So this is where we currently are, and this is where our last scan was when we had the Firefox. So as you can see, it's huge difference. And then this was our first credentialed scan, and then this was our very first initial uncredentialed scan. So yeah, it's gone down, and most of the vulnerabilities seem to revolve around looks like Windows video. Yeah, it's like some video extensions. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up the tutorial. It's pretty fun to experiment with this and install, really old software. Maybe you can, get a hold of Windows XP ISO and run some scans on it just to see, the kind of crazy amount of vulnerabilities on that. But yeah, these are just, some of the core components, vulnerability management. You have scanning and remediating, and a lot more goes into it, especially in a large corporate environment with standards, policies, and procedures. So quickly, just to recap, the process of vulnerability management we covered involves scanning things, finding vulnerabilities, and then remediating them. So yeah, thanks for watching and stay tuned for more tutorials.